Hello everyone, Pete here, and we've started to get some fantastic hands-on impressions of the upcoming ROG Xbox Ally and Ally X PC gaming handhelds over the past day or two from Gamescom 2025. Let's blast through the top 10 of these key insights, including how ergonomic these new grip handles really are, if the 7-inch screen size is too small or not, and a super interesting option in the new Xbox OS settings. Plus I'll share the overall top 5 thoughts I've learned from studying the many hours of these hands-on impression vids. So as we start, all of the full vids from these short clips are well worth watching, so I would highly recommend checking them all out after watching this vid, and I'll leave links to every single one below in the description. So let's start off with the legend that is ETA Prime. And for our first hands-on impression, he answered a question that myself and I'm sure that many of us had, which is how does the base model white Xbox Ally with that lower Z2A chip compare to the Steam Deck? And ETA noted that it is a bit of an upgrade. The indie games ran really well on this lower end model, which is to be expected, and that the AAA modern day classic Forza Horizon 5 ran really well at 1080p. Which is very interesting, as I mentioned in my last vid, how that this white base model is actually designed for lower 720p resolution gaming. And this was running at medium settings at 20W TDP, although let's remember that this title is optimized extremely well for PC gaming, which is why it probably was one of the main games on display at Gamescom. Act 2 was an insight into the power of the high-end Xbox Ally X model, and ETA noted that the recent AAA game, Doom the Dark Ages, ran really well. And this was at medium settings with no frame gen on, FSR was set to balanced, and even though it wasn't quite at a silky smooth 60 FPS, that with some tweaking, which obviously wasn't allowed at Gamescom, that hitting that 60 FPS sweet spot would be easily doable. The third insight was from Tom's Guide's amazing hands-on, and he answered a huge question that many of us had about these new handheld grips, which I've got to admit have been pretty divisive in our Ally community. But Tom had incredibly glowing praise for these new grips, stating that even though the Xbox Ally is a little thicker than other handhelds, that this is the most comfortable PC gaming handheld that he's ever held, due to these much more pronounced grips making it easier to hold on to. Wow, that is tremendously high praise indeed. Sticking with Tom's Guide at 4, he absolutely raved about the FPS performance he was getting from the high-end Xbox Ally X, describing that the numbers that he was getting were insane. So for example, on Doom the Dark Ages, he was somehow getting 83 FPS at 1080p on medium settings with FSR on, which somehow was much higher than ETA's vid, so perhaps FrameGen was also enabled to get this. And on Gears of War Reloaded, on a mixture of the most intensive ultra and high settings, he was getting a rock solid 60 FPS, noting that these numbers are unheard of in gaming PC handhelds. At 5, and one final insight from Tom's Guide, seriously it's such a great vid, so do check it out after watching this, is one particular aspect I especially loved in his vid, which is when he states that after having hands-on time with both the Xbox Ally handhelds, that he really does think that the 7-inch screen is just the right size, which is super refreshing to hear when myself and I know that many of us are really questioning whether the bigger 8 inches on devices like the Switch 2 really should be the standard now in 2025 for screen size. And the two main reasons that he stated for this was that the 7 inches is just the right size for maintaining portability, and at 2 is that with the screen size more condensed down being at just 7 inches, it means that all of the textures are just the extra bit crisper. At 6 was outside Xbox's great hands-on vid. And while they had many positives about the actual handhelds themselves, they were hugely disappointed by the fact that these Xbox Ally handhelds will not play Xbox games that we've bought off our Xbox Series S or X consoles, with the only exceptions being that those games that support that elusive Xbox Play Anywhere tag that is found in the game's description. And they were hoping, like we all were too, that Microsoft would incorporate some kind of translation layer to allow us to download indeed any of our Xbox console digital purchases directly onto these Xbox Ally handhelds. But instead we can only cloud stream them if they don't support Xbox Play Anywhere. For 7 was a great hands-on vid by Matthew Moniz, who highlighted how the Xbox OS, or as it's now officially called the Xbox full screen experience, really does go a long way to make the whole feel of the handhelds very Xbox console-like, and getting rid of the unnecessary Windows desktop aspects to make it more efficient and easier to use for gaming. And this vid in particular made me super excited for when this Windows full screen experience rolls out to all of us existing Ally and Alex owners early next year. Link to this at 8 is the most chill YouTuber ever, yes, our hero, that is Cyber Dopamine. And Cyber was really blown away with just how smooth and lag-free this new full screen Windows experience really is. Like, there really does seem to be zero latency, especially with all of the new swipe gestures we'll now be able to do right on the screen, making for a super immersive experience. And I got to admit that I had a lot of concerns about this huge overhaul in this early pre-release stage, as many of us may remember those early first impressions of the Lenovo Legion Go, way back before that got released, and it quite rightly got incredibly criticized for its laggy, latency-filled software in those early previews. And thankfully it does not appear to be the case right here with these brand new pre-release Windows full screen experience previews. Cyber, you're a legend, please don't ever change. The ninth fascinating insight was by Windows Central, and that is our first full look at switching from the Xbox full screen experience into the full Windows desktop, which is right here. And again, this process happens much quicker than I first thought. And going back to the Windows desktop to the full screen experience was super interesting too, as we do this by holding down the Xbox button to enter the game bar, then in settings choose the enter full screen experience mode right here. And here was very intriguing as we can enter it straight away without optimization, but Microsoft actually recommends that we fully restart our Xbox Ally every single time that we enter the Xbox full screen experience, as it allows Windows to fully unload all of those unneeded desktop processes, resources and background tasks that are just not needed for gaming. So this will offer a really nice boost to our performance when gaming. And at 10 was again by Windows Central. Honestly, I highly recommend checking out their full vid at the link below. And theirs was in fact one of the very few that actually gave us a super in-depth look at how closely linked the Xbox full screen experience and also the Windows desktop is. In fact, it's more linked than I first thought. And it's right here where we can choose which app these Windows handhelds boot directly into first, with Xbox obviously now being the only choice. But it could mean that other third-party launchers like Steam or the Epic Game Launcher could be possibilities as the default full-screen experience later on down the line, perhaps. So the top 5 overarching thoughts that I've come away with after the many hours of scouring through all of these hands-on impression vids are that, number 1, the base model Xbox Ally seems to be a little more capable performance-wise than I first thought. At 2 is the top-end Xbox Ally X seems to be an absolute beast performance-wise, although how much of this is due to the new Z2 AI processor, or instead due to the optimizations of the new Windows full screen experience is still to be determined. Talking about this new Windows full screen experience, at 3 is that this really does seem to have a significant impact on just how much more enjoyable these Xbox Ally handhelds really are to use, and this really could be an absolute game changer. At 4 is that while I think a lot of us ridiculed those hand grips especially early on, they really do seem to add a significant ergonomic advantage over the current Ally handheld, which I never thought I would say. And at 5 is that it's made me rethink if I really do want a bigger 8-inch display, and that perhaps 7 inches really is the sweet spot for truly portable gaming. I'd love to hear what you think about these and other hands-on vids of the new Xbox Ally and Ally X handhelds. Have they made you more excited for them, or perhaps even put you off considering buying one? Let us all know in the comments. And as a thank you for watching this far, I'd love to share this awesome quote. Each day is a blessing. Let go of all worries and be grateful for all the positive in our life. Yes, it's so easy for us to get bogged down in anxiety about tomorrow and also stress from today. But let's just focus on and be grateful for all of the good things that we have in life. And so stay encouraged today, guys. And as extra bonus treats for staying right to the end, here's our gorgeous rescue cat and her name is Pancake. And if you want to know the top 10 key takeaways about the Xbox Ally handhelds from the actual Gamescom 2025 event, then check out this vid. As always, be sure to like if you found this helpful, subscribe if you're new here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.